Do you know that right now, a secret war is going on in the dark basement of the White House that will probably beat the biggest mystery story you know? Just 30 people are involved in preparing a simple meal. It's a secret mission lasting 96 hours, and all the security that seems more complicated than the maintenance of a nuclear missile. Yes, the security of these presidents' meals is no less than that of a nuclear bomb. It may sound ridiculous, but you will understand after a while. So let's take a look at what food President Trump eats, and how his food is prepared through a mysterious mission. At the beginning of this great sacrifice for President Trump in the White House, a chef in the dark basement is meditating on a spreadsheet that looks like a military attack plan. It is written in which minute and which second, which ingredient will arrive, which oven will cook which food, and the exact temperatures for 20 different dishes, all cooked at the same time. A master chef and 29 other kitchen staff will serve America's best food. But before all this madness begins, this massive operation stops for just one bird. Yes, just one turkey. But this is no ordinary turkey. This is America's most important bird. You can now see a giant turkey walking through the gleaming marble lobby of the Willard Intercontinental Hotel. It is probably the most expensive guest. The National Turkey Federation is paying thousands of dollars for 2 separate luxury rooms with plastic sheeting on the floor, royal feeding stations, and dedicated staff working shifts to ensure that these birds live a royal life. And this is where the real story begins. Because these are no ordinary turkeys. By the time they arrive at the White House, they weigh almost 3 times as much as a normal turkey. That is 20 kilograms. They are genetically engineered to look amazing on camera. But the funny thing is that they can hardly walk. Not only that, these birds are given months of rigorous training so that the bright lights, sudden loud noises, and screaming crowds of people do not frighten them. They are even played music. Classical music calms them down. Some music makes them extremely aggressive. Some music makes them completely confused. But the mysterious thing that no one talks about is that there is a Secret Service agent whose mission is to physically examine this turkey down to the millimeter. They check if there are any hidden weapons hidden under its wings. They check if there are any sharp objects on its legs. This checking is not only for security reasons, but the real reason is much more embarrassing. The birds are not allowed to eat anything for exactly 12 hours after leaving the hotel. Because if the turkey defecates on the president in the middle of a live broadcast, that moment will be history forever. So such a risk is never taken. But while the whole world is staring at this celebrity bird, the real battle begins in the secret kitchen of the White House. At 5 a.m., the kitchen is transformed into a high-tech crime lab and military war room. No cooking has started yet. Security checks have just begun. Every tiny ingredient of the food has to pass the brutal security screening that is only used on suspicious packages sent to the president. Yes, every ingredient that will be used in the president's meal goes through rigorous testing from its source to its entry into the White House kitchen. Where do the vegetables come from? Which farm does the meat come from? The entire history of these things is checked before it enters the kitchen. Even the background of the truck driver who brings them is investigated. When a delivery truck is on its way, if it makes the slightest mistake along the way and stops somewhere authorized, the shipment is canceled. The exterior of each package is inspected as it enters the kitchen. Whether there is any sign that it was opened in the middle, whether there are fine holes, or whether it has been resealed. Then they are checked with a metal detector. Then chemical and microbial identification tests are also carried out, so that there are no toxic substances or harmful bacteria. If necessary, the presence of radioactive substances is also checked. Finally, the temperature is checked to ensure that no ingredients have been spoiled during storage. Only after this entire process are those ingredients transferred to the White House's own sterile containers. Yes, the White House chef's job is not just to cook. They also play the role of security guards. Each path goes through many stages of testing, from the moment before cooking until it reaches the table. For example, the steak grilled for the president is measured immediately after it is taken out of the oven. at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Otherwise, it has to be put back in the oven, because federal food safety regulations require that meat be cooked to this temperature. So every item, from soups to vegetables to desserts, is guaranteed to be cooked to the correct temperature and quality. Even if a curry or soup is a little colder or hotter than ideal, immediate action is taken to fix it. A chef keeps an eye on the president's plate at all times. His job is not to serve, but to make sure that whatever is in front of the president is perfectly prepared and safe. However, after a huge feast, the clock strikes 2 a.m., and the eerie silence in the dark basement of the White House is broken by the sound of an oven timer. The turkey goes into the oven. For the next 13 hours, no one can step out of this room, not even for the bathroom. The power fluctuates for just a second. A big mess starts. Another interesting thing is that the president has to pay for his personal meals out of his own pocket. Yes, Trump, like his family, pays for the president's personal meals out of his annual salary. The White House's chief of staff prepares a bill for the entire budget at the end of the month. How many eggs have been used? How many pounds of meat or vegetables have been consumed? So that the entire account is clear, like a restaurant bill. Isn't it amazing to think? Even at the highest position in the country, he has to pay for his own family's dinner, so that the public's tax money is not wasted. At the end of the day, when the president's meal is served on the table, the entire staff is still holding their breath. Trump may finish the meal calmly, maybe give a compliment or say, "It was great." But he doesn't know how many layers of scrutiny and planning a simple soup or steak has already gone through before it arrives. The president calmly gets up from the dining table and goes to the next task. And then the White House kitchen team takes a deep breath. Another day's mission is successfully completed, but there is no time for much rest. They immediately jump into preparing for the next new task, because every meal for the president is a special mission whose behind-the-scenes story may be just as dramatic and exciting.